It's G. Hello, everybody. We are in 2024, and this is the video for the week of January 8th, 2024. So we're going to pull this chart up and take a look at some of the interesting things right off the bat before we even get to the chart. Heads up, there's a new moon coming. If you haven't seen the video, I'll put the link below. Hopefully, I'm not sure when I'll have that video up. Hopefully it's already up by now, but if not, it'll be coming shortly. For those of you who are all about creating your future and manifesting, and you believe in prayer and intention, some of you light a candle or have a ceremony, I'll have the video that'll give you the details, the date, and the time of the new moon, the hours of power that I like to call them. So I'll give a mention to that in this video. And we're also going to be talking about two of the big baddies up in the sky. When I say big baddies, I mean big power, big, intense, deep power, energy that when it comes around, you're told, just surrender and let this shit happen. You don't try to fight this shit, right? Anybody know what I'm talking about? We're going to get to it. And then, yeah. What else is happening here? All right, well, let's just get the chart up and we'll go a little bit further into it. I already said it, January 8th. This will be your week of. This will cover the next 7 days. Okay? And so this is every week on the channel. For anybody, if you just happen to be new or you've just happened to stumble upon here, welcome. My name is G. And we're going to walk through the astrological energies, or the weather update, however you want to look at the starry weather report. I think that's how we've dubbed it, the starry weather report. So here we go. In general, for this week, I've got some things already pointed out over here on the chart. Let me get to the dates, because I know sometimes dates are easier for people than looking at all the lines on the chart, right? And I get that. So first off, the biggie baddie that I started mentioning, the one that's full of power, there's two of them. And I've already talked about this in other videos. I had a separate video for it. Pluto and Sedna. Yeah, that's the symbology for Sedna right there. It's supposed to look like a faucet, like a side view on a faucet. A faucet. I don't know where that came from, but anyway. And then there's Pluto. Yeah, Pluto's little... Yeah, that's actually a little bit more accurate right there. That's Pluto. So on the 7th, January 7th, January 6th, actually, it might even be like, yeah, because we're following the minutes for Pluto. But there's a little bit of a window, and it has to do with the minutes for Pluto energy. So if you want to know more, if you don't really understand what I'm talking about, I kind of go into a deep dive on this in the separate video. So I will link that below. But here it is. Let's go take a peek. Let's go find these two and see. It's Pluto in Cappy, because we know Pluto's in Capricorn, and Pluto takes a long time to make its move. And there it is, 2936. So you see it is in a different color, and that's fine. It's the symbols that matter, 2936. And then the other one is going to be Sedna. She's going to be at 2936 in Taurus energy. All right. So what that means is, well, Pluto is power. It's meaning, it's intense. And when I say meaning, something should be meaningful, like as in the meaning of life, but as in, what are you doing with your power? Are you doing something that is deeply meaningful? You follow? Pluto is power. Remember that. And when we have that power, we're able to take action with the power. So in a sense, the Pluto energy is quite actionary. I know we don't normally talk about it that way, because I often refer to it as a power that is beyond our physical body. And that's Pluto. It is. It's more, I liken it to my soul's power, or your soul's power, or some would say it's the divine, actually. It's kind of like that divine spark within each of us that runs through us. Now, don't want to get into a conversation here for that about, is my soul the same as the divine power? That's for a different time. Bring it up on the Starry Night Lives if you want to have a back and forth about that and hear different opinions. I don't think there's anybody here that can look at another person and say, "You're wrong." So, yeah, it'd be an interesting conversation. 29 degrees, 36 minutes. You see that? Yeah, you can see that, right? If it's Capricorn, we think of governments and businesses, people with large amounts of money. Yeah, large amounts of money. So, especially for like the states, I know January 2024, we're ramping up people really picking a candidate because we have an election coming up in November. And so, yeah, what candidate are people going to throw their money towards, especially those who've got that deep, deep, deep pockets? Pluto in Capricorn. People have deep pockets so deep they can persuade those donations, create commercials, create ads, and that creates, they can shift the public thought. How about that? Now, at the same time, we see Saturn is also in Capricorn energy. I said Saturn. The sun is in Capricorn energy. And I'm going to include Saturn here because this is on the 7th. This kicks off like that's on that Sunday. This is today, Monday, right? So typically, if Capricorn and Pluto together, I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but this energy is going to kind of function in a way as one. The sun is somebody in charge. Saturn rules Capricorn. Saturn is somebody in charge. You see, Pluto in Capricorn is Pluto and Saturn working together. The rules and the structure, the order. This is something that's built up over a long period of time. Capricorn energy can be someone who's older, like an authority figure in your life. It is masculine energy, right? The sun in Capricorn, it's kind of the same. It's someone who's in charge, someone who's in charge, someone who's got the spotlight, someone who has the authority figures, right? Because it's the sun in Capricorn. And we now, like we talked about in last week's video, Mars is at 3 degrees in Cappy here. You see that? Mars is at 3 degrees in Cappy. Mercury is going to be a thing in a couple of days from this, and I'm going to get to that. We'll get there. So for right now, understanding the Capricorn stuff, the rules, the structure, the order. Remember, Capricorn likes to organize. It wants long-term success, long-term material, tangible, financial security. You know, it is that thing that us as humans, we do when we're working and we're trying to attain clothes, a home, automobile. Some of us wear our clothes, right? Some of us live, or yeah, some of us wear our clothes. Some of us wear our wealth, is what I was trying to say. Some of us wear our wealth. Everyone has a different thing that they're drawn to, right? Whether it's shoes or watches or cars or homes or investing money or, you know, because I'm thinking material and tangible, commodities, gold, right? Something you can hold in your hand. If I can hold it, I own it type of mentality. And then Capricorn is the builder. Remember, the builder. What are you building? What can you build that lasts for the long haul? But it's usually something that we can hold or knock on, right? Something that one day may be torn down, but this is after a very long period of time because Saturn rules time. Saturn is father time. So it's built to last a long time. So we think of government buildings, we think of institutions within our society, right? We think of prisons and hospitals, right? Things that are, you know, this isn't a short-term thing. We know this is going to be here for a while. We think of our educational buildings, right? You know, grade schools, high schools. We think of college. You know, we think of places that are just literally like, I mean, we think of some of those older colleges within the United States, right? So those would be big time structures within the institution. Okay. And when you have Capricorn trining Sedna, which we do, right? This trine would have started up because Sedna's moving backwards and Capricorn Pluto was moving forward. So this is powerful, but Sedna itself is feminine energy. So feminine Sedna in a feminine sign, Taurus, because Venus rules Taurus. So when you have Venus doing her thing here, it's about values. It's about feminine energy. So we could think women, women's rights. Do we value women? what's the pay grade for women as opposed to men. I know that's changed over the years. It's getting closer to being equal. I think I even heard somebody trying to say that women make more than men and it's unfair and it's just and I'm thinking, well, damn, if that were true, I would say there would need to be many, many, many years of that for the recalibration process to actually occur. Think about it, right? We're talking about, anyway, we're not going to go there. So, Sedna, feminine energy, Sedna has been betrayed. Sedna has been wronged. There is a lot of strong, deep emotional vulnerabilities from tragic stuff from the past. This goes all the way back to indigenous peoples everywhere. Indigenous peoples everywhere. And so we think of the earth. We think of how the indigenous peoples, I can only speak about the indigenous peoples in the United States because that's the only history of indigenous peoples that I am familiar with. And so we think of the earth and we think of people being cleared from their lands and forced to walk. And this is after they've already slaughtered, you know, men, right? And then taken the women and the children and their land and forced them off their lands. And many are walking through snow, and many are freezing to death, and many are uh, anyway. So the whole thing and the trauma that occurs, right? The trauma that occurs, not to mention a whole slew of likely many other traumas that occurred when your men have been slaughtered, when you are defenseless, and when your people are being divided and separated. And those who are doing the commanding and the forcing, and you can only think of all the other atrocities that would happen to females. So there's a trine energy happening between these two, between Pluto and Sedna at this time. And so likely there could be things in the news that we're hearing about that may help level the playing field, possibly, because trine just means it's going to make something easy to happen. And I know recently there was bison being returned to their native lands, to their indigenous homelands. And so hopefully we see more of that. And I think in general, especially here in the States, there are some people who are becoming smarter and understanding that there are certain cultures that were stewards of the planet, and they understood how to work with the cycle of the planet. And it was done in a way where it meant I I don't take any more than I need, and I return that which I don't need, and I leave it better than I found it. You follow? And I work in harmony with the planet. I ask permission, and everything I do with intention, and it's with a clear, good, positive intention. And the harmony and the balance is so important because when you live with the earth, literally, and depend on it, and you don't depend on Amazon, right? Right, you follow where I'm going. You learn that if you don't respect and honor those cycles, you will lose. You will lose. And so if you honor those cycles, then the odds are that you will learn there is a time and a place. There is a time of planting the seeds, and then there's a time of harvesting, right? So it's that understanding of working with the patterns and the cycles that are already naturally there, already naturally established. So I have it written in blue, but I'll reinforce it here in black to see the trine between Sedna and Pluto. And so that trine is done by the minutes. So in your chart, if you have something between 33, 34, 35, 36, um, 37 degrees, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. And that's, I said degrees, I'm sorry, that's in the minutes. It's in the minutes because it's 29 degrees and 33 to 37 minutes. All right. And again, it's not based on your natal Sedna. It's based on what do you have in Taurus at 29:33 to 34, or what do you have in Capricorn at 29:33 to 30. I said 34, 29 to 33 to 37 in the minutes. Sedna moves slower than Pluto. She moves twice, on average, twice as slow as Pluto moves on average. Okay. And remember, Earth energy. It's the creature comforts, it's the food, it's the material, the tangible, it's the smells, it's the garden, it's the animals, it's everything we need to feel stabilized in our life. Stabilized, not rich, but to feel stable. I got a roof over my head. I'm comfortable, right? I've got clothing on my body, right? So it's clothing, it's textiles, it can be perfumes. I already mentioned food, but we think of all the five senses: smells, taste, touch, hearing, sound, right? My vision. Those are the five senses, okay? So for this week, that setup is, well, that just starts the week off. And then we go to the 11th. And on the 11th, we have a new moon. All right. We have a new moon on the 11th in Capricorn. And that new moon on the 11th is at 21 degrees in Capricorn. That's the symbol for Capricorn right there. Kind of go over it one more time for you guys. All right. So you see that? 21 degrees in Cappy. Let's go find it. Earth again, the rules, the structure. I kind of already had it highlighted here because this is a new moon in Capricorn. So when the sun and the moon will meet up at 21 degrees. There's a separate video for that on the channel. I think I mentioned that at the beginning. I'll put the link below. But who and what planet, I should say, rules this new moon? The planet that rules Capricorn is the planet that rules this new moon. And that's Saturn. Yep. You're right. That's Saturn. I already kind of talked about it, and we're talking about it again. So this is on the 11th of January, just a few days away from the 8th. And then it's interesting because shortly after that, Mercury enters the sign of Capricorn. Literally, Mercury enters Capricorn. And she moves fast, right? Because look, here on this chart on the 8th, I said the 8th. Yeah, January 8th. Within 3 days, she's gone from 25 degrees to 0 degrees Capricorn. And so that means that Mercury then will be in Capricorn on the 13th. Depending upon where you live, it's the 13th and the 14th. Okay. So what that means is Capricorn is very structured. Remember, I talked about in the beginning, it's all about order. It's all about my long-term goals. Whatever your long-term goals are. Some people say, gee, is this just my career? Is it, some people literally use this energy to physically, materially, tangibly build something. Think of Lego. What are those? The Lincoln logs? I was going to say Lego logs. The other L, Lincoln logs. Remember those? That was a Capricorn thing. They were building a home. Who builds a home and says, oh, but I'm building it and it's going to be destroyed in a year? No, you build a home. Even if you don't live in it, you know that you're building something of value. You can turn around and sell it. You follow? And that is Capricorn. You get it now? Material and tangible. So Mercury going there, your mind will be focused on your future, on your goals and your ambition, your money, what it is that gives you financial security. How can you establish that? What steps do you got to take? Or what steps are you in the process of, and what do you have to tweak and change? Because Mercury is always giving us options. Mercury's always thinking. It's having discussions. It's always learning. It always wants to learn more, right? It will talk to other people. It likes to see all the options on the table because it wants to make a decision. Okay. So now Mercury at 0 degrees in Cappy. We'll say it's on the 13th of January. And that happens, right? That'll be this week. Now, we're going to also take a look at some other things in this chart real quickly. You see the big purple triangle, the blue-purple triangle, right? It's a strong one, and it's in Earth, right? So that's part of the new moon. That's part of the new moon. Because the new moon being at 21 degrees, look, we also got this at 21. Those details will be for the video, but I want you to, I'm pointing it out here because it stays strong. It's not necessarily a one and done event because there's going to be so much energy in Capricorn going forward. If you look closely at the chart, if I were to move this, you see Vulcan here, right? At 20 degrees, right? But you also see Pan. I got this little guy, Pan, who's sitting here. I got a cat at the door. Okay, hold on. Let me go get the kitty cat. Hold on. Did it pause? Okay, let's get comfy. Let's get adjusted. Your towel's over there. Yeah, I had to get, I had someone banging down on my door. I wonder who that was. Oh my Lord, what is that? We know who that is. We know who it is. Yeah, the sidekick, Taffy. So, yeah, let me get focused on what was I talking about, Taff? Hold on, this cat. Come on, get comfy. She's like, but I want to be right under your elbow, right in between your elbow and your chest. Come on, right there. That's a good spot. Get comfy. Here comes the purrs. Okay. So we're still going to have a lot of other Earth energy to support this grand Earth trine. Okay. Because this is at 17, but then here comes Mars and Mercury's at this time, as the week goes on, right? Mercury's moving fast. She can cover almost a full degree, a degree and a half, sometimes 2 degrees in a day. She's not as fast because it's Cappy and it's Earth and she's an air sign. So that's the only thing that kind of brings the hesitation. But my point is, she's doing the thinking about the long-term goals. And we still have the strong trine for this week between Sedna and Pluto. So your goals and your ambitions, your bank accounts, your job, your values, your worth, your self-worth, right? And then of course, Juno, partnerships, practical partnerships. It must make sense because it's in Virgo. Sometimes we think domestic part of life, right? Like, okay, do I have everything I need? Virgo's going to be about, yeah. It's we think functionality when we think Virgo. I always see what's his face, that one architect in my head whenever I talk about Virgo. And for him, when he was building, function was important. So it could look awesome, but it had to also make sense. But not just make sense as in, well, the sun rises on this side of the building, but then also, what is another feature that he could attach to it that would enhance that, right? That would make it something you can literally do something with. You see, Virgo is the details. It's the details. And it's the kind of details that when you put them together, you see the big picture. You get the aha. You get the big ideas with the collection of all the details, because the opposite of Virgo is Pisces. So it's super idealistic. Yeah, it does strive for perfection, and that's the only caution with this. But because it's practical, and Virgo can also be all holistic things, alternative modalities, right? We think Virgo and walking and yoga. And I'm always hearing a lot of Virgo energy showing up with, like, whether it's Reiki or just the sound can also be a very big one. Chanting, mantras, humming, singing, whatever the heck you need to do. But Virgo is not very jarring. It's not the one who's like, oh yeah, we're going to go and do kickboxing. No, that's not going to be Virgo. Virgo is more about thinking about the whole thing, and so how will it affect my entire body? But digestion and food, and how food affects the body, and how the food affecting the body, ultimately the feelings that it gives the body affects how the mind works. So it affects the details. It affects my ability to clearly see or not, the ability to clearly discern or not. Yeah. So that matters. So this is a backup. Let me back it up. This cat, she just, how naturally your arm sits against your body, but she wants to be between that. She wants me to sit like this. How am I supposed to do that with my hand can't be here? Come on, mama. Yeah, I know. I know you want massages. I know you want massages. Yeah. Come on. Come on. Here, let me get this towel over here. Maybe that's the difference for her. Maybe that will be better. This table is a little chilly. Here. Come on. Come on. Look. Is that better? Is that better? I got that there just for you, but I do need the microphone. I got to have the microphone. Well, if you inch your little booty up just a little bit more, you'll be perfect. Oh, see? She got it. She's like this. Thank you. She just needed her little space to lay down. Okay, so that's that grand Earth trine. So for this week, we're talking January 7th to January 14th. There can be a possibility for some of you to have some very supportive, stabilizing, long range things that has to do with your security, your goals, your financial long-term stability. I keep saying the same word. I don't know what else to say. But I also want to point out that when Mercury on the 13th/14th gets to Cappy, she's going to have a sweet trine, powerful sweet trine with Regulus. By then, this black moon Lilith will have moved, just so that you know, though, right here on this day, black moon and Regulus are exact. You see that? They are exact. Okay, so this is being very nitpicky energy because it's black moon. She normally doesn't show up real well until we see how she's being petty, even. She's, paying attention to things that are really irritating her or just the way that she's expressing. But because it's Virgo, it's going to be overly critical. And to get an example of that, like if you're afraid to look in the mirror, because some of us, it's really difficult to look in the mirror and to think, I said that, I did that, no way, right? But if you ever I know on YouTube every once in a while something will come up and it's like, okay, I should probably know about this. I mean, it helps me to stay relevant to do the videos for you guys. So unfortunately for me, I have to be connected to what's going on in the world, which is, anyway. So, but if you ever read any of the comments under the videos, oh my God, I hear people literally tearing people apart because of their comments. And some of the comments, it's not that what they're saying is necessarily like crazy or insane or super extreme, although there is some of that there for sure. But I will see people who are just sincerely sharing what their thoughts are, and people will just pick them to shreds like a surgeon on a table with a patient who's completely just out of it, and they will just slice them the shit up. And I'm just like, God, what the hell is that? And I'm thinking, like, Virgo wants perfection, and Regulus always thinks it's the king. It thinks it knows better. It thinks it can do better. And so at this 0 degrees being quite extreme, and then black moon Lilith being here, oh yeah. So it's just a kind of a heads up, okay? It's just kind of a heads up for all of us who have the ability to be those overly critical people. There are definitely times when we are all that way at some point in time with something or someone, for sure. Now, we're going to kind of cap this week. Well, actually, there's more here I have listed, and I kind of want to go over those things, but we're going to get to Venus now. Venus, she's right here. You see her over here, right? You see her small, right? There's Venus right there, and Saggy. Yep, same, different color, but that's okay. It's still Venus. It's the shape that matters with the gliss. Remember that. Different softwares will have different colors, so it's the shape that matters. This Venus is at 12 degrees in Sagittarius, and so she only moves to like 5 degrees by the end of the week. But look what it does. By 5 degrees, it puts her on top of Sirius. Now, Sirius is the food. It's connected to the earth, right? And so what we think about grain, particularly grains, so we think wheat, and that's a big deal, right? That's a huge deal when we think about the earth and her natural resources and how that's kind of what the battle is over natural resources. That's why countries want to get to other lands and get those lands, is to get those beautiful natural resources that they're rich in there, right? So food security, but it's in Sagittarius. So what does that mean? It means the food is traveling, the food is on the move, right? It can mean that. It could be airplanes, it can be by boat, whatever the hell it is. Mercury's the traveler. And so Mercury did its retrograde, and now it's ended its retrograde, right? You know that a while back. The numbers are at 24. So I said at its retrograde, it's just past its retrograde zone. It's out of the shadow zone here. 24 degrees, Mercury's out of its shadow zone. And It's very serious thinking, very serious. Duty and responsibilities is Capricorn, so that's the way we'll be thinking. And Venus conjunct Ceres. Whenever Venus goes, Venus is also, she rules the earth, remember Taurus? And she also rules Libra, diplomacy. I think this can be beneficial. I think that alone right there can be beneficial because wherever Venus goes, she usually, her goal is to establish harmony and to do that by her words, but she's smart. She's smart. And with all the energy we have in Capricorn, there is a lot of orders coming down, a lot of serious long term planning and thinking coming down from higher ups, from those who are in charge. Mars at 3 degrees here, Mars is taking the orders. Mars is being told what is going to be happening next, and it's been handed its orders. So by the end of this week, Mars hasn't moved very far. But what I will add here, and I'm going to put Mars in black just because that's the color I have right now. And I think we're going to keep it in black because it's in Cappy. Mars is super strong here. It's a smart Mars. It's not a rebellious Mars. This is a Mars that is following the rules. This is the Mars that's there to establish order. You follow? This is a Mars that likely will be doing what it has been told to do from the general. Remember, the sun is in Cappy. See that? So Mars is now at 8 degrees by the end of this week. Anybody know why the 8 degrees matters? Because that's where Mercury began her retrograde way back. Yeah. That when Mercury first hit that 8 degree mark, she then had to stop and go backwards. Mars ends the week up there. So I think it's really fascinating because it always tells us this story. And at 8 degrees, Mars, that means that this week, between 3 and 8 degrees, Mars travel, which meant Mars was trining Jupiter and White Moon Lilith. A nice trine, 8 degrees. So that's going to be, we're going to start feeling it 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. The Mars trining Jupiter. So that could add to some sort of military aid, even because it's in Taurus, right? Government's likely involved. And White Moon Lilith is also there. It's to create stability and support. But because Capricorn is involved, other than being government, there may be, I don't want to say the word restrictions, but there may be, I can give this to you, but this is what we will need in return. You know, it's not just a simple, here you go. No, there's going to be rules attached to it. There's going to be responsibilities and accountability attached to it. Like that's Capricorn energy. You see, you follow the rules. You don't follow the rules, then there's accountability. And that's Capricorn energy. And with Pluto and Sedna trining, folks, that those two signs together absolutely are accountability. They say you've abused your power, and that can't be. We have the ability to take that from you in some way, shape, or form. Okay. Now, the very last thing that I need to mention is the nodes. The moon's nodes. It's January, folks, and there's the south node in Libra at 20 degrees and 43 minutes. Remember, the south node is a release, a let go. Like I'm done with this. I finished a chapter in my life. Business partnerships, likely, possibly for some folks, some partnership of some sort, and it can be personal. Like I'm married to this person, even. It could be that kind of a partnership. At the opposite end is the north node. It's about my future and where I'm headed. Now, I want you guys to pay attention to this part. This is really, I think, truly important. This is huge for our future because that 20 degrees is, I mentioned it before, it's on the United States' Chiron. USA has their natal Chiron at 20 degrees in Aries. It's the wounds of the body and the appearance of my body. And this turned into an arrow. Okay, so we're going to leave that. The north node is the future based on my freedoms, the freedom of my body, My freedom's based on my appearance. It's also body autonomy. Like, this is my body. These are my rights. You can't make me do that. Or you have no right to tell me that I can't do that. You follow? And so the North Node is involved here. All right. The North Node, the future of our freedoms, and we take action. But Chiron as well, the wounds of the body, things that happened in the past. So, I think again of the natives, people who their land was taken, Chiron energy and the wounds. And, my people have suffered. This is people who've been, we think all the way back, people of different color, people who are not white male. Now, I only mention it that way because it was the shortest way to say what I had to say. That other list was a lot bigger. You follow? So I know a lot of people feel threatened because they hear likely lots of other folks saying that too. But it's just, for me, it's because the other list is so long. Isn't that insane though? Right? It's the white male that has basically been privileged in some way, for sure. So if you are not that, there's something here. There's something about the North Node and the future of that. And Chiron, this Chiron at 15, will be here. You see? And so for the North Node at this time to be sitting on the United States Chiron, this will give us a foreshadow for when this Chiron gets to 20 degrees of Aries. Does that make sense? And Uranus and Vertex, I have an arrow pointed at them. I have to mention them real quick before I forget. There's an opposition, and the opposition is Pallas Athena. She is the feminine strategist. I say that she is the female general because that's who she is. She puts it, she looks at the maps. She can strategize. She can think long term. She can think short term. She understands logistics, how we got to get from A to B to C. Like, she's a planner, and she can think outside of the circle. She can think outside of the rectangle. You see, she's got a diamond head. That's why she's got a diamond head, to show you she thinks a little bit differently. She's very creative, a very creative thinker, and she's in Scorpio, shared resources. So we think of land. We think of, the riches that lands have, right? We think of all that war that's been going on for so long, right? Palestine and Israel. And we think of, just, man, it's like both sides deserve to have a place they can call their own without anybody deeming, hey, I rule over you. And anyway, so I just hope that somehow this story is taking on a different tone, and I think it is going to be taking on a different tone. And it might not be. I don't think it's going to be perfect, because I don't think there's a quick solution to something that's been going on for so darn long. I just don't see that. That's not logical. That's not. Virgo says that doesn't make any sense. It would take time. But this Chericlo here, I don't know if you can see. I'm sorry, Persephone. This Persephone at 2853 is 29 degrees. Okay. And she's used to being alone and isolated, right? But she's at home here right now, right? She feels at home here. She's going to be leaving home soon. She spends 6 months out of the year here. She's not going to stay here long. She's going to be leaving here. Okay. Wherever you see Persephone, that's where it's no coincidence that Persephone, if you know her story, she was kidnapped, wasn't she? Kidnapped and taken down into Hades. Like, oh, you're going to stay here for 6 months, right? And so she felt scared and alone and isolated. But over time, she learned how to make that place her home. And so it's finding the power in an unfamiliar place. But she's not going to be here much longer. She's already at a critical degree, 29 degrees. And at that 29 degrees, that means that she is squaring or getting squared by. She's getting squared by Regulus. Yeah, that's going to create a square. Does that make sense? Because 0 degrees in Regulus squares at 0 degrees in Saggy. And so at 29 degrees, she's already a couple of degrees from being near the 0 degrees of Saggy. Does that make sense? You guys see that? Yeah. Couple degrees, and it says I'm at 0 degrees of Saggy then. Okay, and so that's how you have an out of sign square. And I know that's getting kind of deep. So that's it. I'm going to end that there. That was a lot for this week. I hope it helps. You got any questions, comment below. And yeah, if you're still here, I always appreciate your time. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.